So nice to have everyone here today. Welcome to today's live webinar. My name is Sophia and I'm going to be your host today. Some of you have maybe seen me before. For some of you, I'm new, but I'm really happy to see we have familiar names in the live session and also new names to get to know today. With me, I have my colleague Nina and Dennis. And before I let them kickstart the webinar today with a presentation about themselves, I'm going to just let you know how we're going to use Zoom today. So you can chat with us throughout the sessions. So please mark the chat settings to everyone so that everyone can see what you're commenting and writing and thinking today. And for all your good questions, you can put them in the Q&A. So we're going to have a look at your questions throughout the webinar. And also then we saved some time in the end to try to answer as many questions as possible. The session is recorded, so for anyone who can be here now joining us live, you can watch the recording, and we're going to send it out to everyone here live also today, so you can share it with your network. The topic of today is also quite interesting because we're going to talk about mentorship, and both Dennis and Nina are mentees at the moment, so they're going to share their experience on this topic. So it's going to be great to hear their experiences and also to ask them some tricky questions. But before I let them start with the webinar, I'm going to let Nina go first, introduce herself. Then we take Dennis and then we go from there.
Ladies first today, cool. Yeah, my name is Nina. I'm an agile coach and I have a professional background in project management and digital product development. And yeah, as Sophia has just introduced, I'm at the moment I'm a mentee, and yeah, this is very important for me because I'm committed to lifelong learning, and I'm happy to share my experience with this during this webinar. And with this, I hand over to Dennis.
Thanks. So I'm Dennis. I'm an Agile coach for Agile 42, and my background is actually law. So a couple of years ago, I decided to go into a different direction, and I'm working in Agile environments in different companies now since 4 years. And my main focus field is actually on human-centered design thinking. And yeah, as Sophia already said, we will bring in I will also bring in the perspective of a mentee today. And before we're going to start, I would head over back to you, Sophia, because we prepared a little poll in regards to you guys and what your experience with mentorship is so far.
Absolutely. It would be great to know who is in the room. So we prepared a short poll just so that we get to know you as well, and we can expect some kind of questions already from the poll. So I'm going to launch it now. Please start selecting your answers. So do you have any experiences with mentoring? You can choose if you have been a mentor, if you have been a mentee, if you've done both, or if you also don't have any experience, that's also totally fine.
Lots of people on both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite even. Both a mentor and a mentee seems to be getting most of the votes, and then it's quite equal with being mentors, being mentees, and also some people that actually don't have any experience. And that's why the webinar is also here today. So very cool. A lot of you guys now already answered, and I'm actually now seeing with the percentage that both mentors and mentee roles are the experience that most of you guys have. So that's very interesting. So yeah. I'm going to also share the results, so you can all see what's been going on. And this is really cool. I mean, that's also now going to a little bit open up the theme for you guys. And I think what would be most interesting now is to get a definition of what mentoring means, and mentees and mentors, I don't know, but just to understand what we're going to talk about today, and then start to hear about your experiences. So I'm just going to hand over to you guys, and we'll be here asking you a lot of tricky questions still. So shoot.
Looking forward to that questions. I can start. So yeah. From my point of view, that as you also said, most of you had experiences with mentorship as a mentee as well as a mentor. So that probably also depends a little bit on the definition you have or on the experience you had with mentorship. And for me, mentorship, I had my first mentor relationship, I think, in school, like when I switched from the 6th grade to the 7th grade. I had someone who somehow took care of us little boys and girls just switching to the new grade. And that was the first time I think I had a mentor who tried to help me to understand where I actually want to go, exchange some experiences, also ask me tricky questions about things I might not even have realized myself so far. And also had most of the time my mentors were already very experienced. So for example, staying in this environment of school, there were people from the, I don't know, 10th grade or something like that. So there are a lot of knowledge already gained, and they were able to share that kind of knowledge and to share a lot of stories with me. And based on that, they also were able to provide me a lot of feedback and help me to self-reflect on my own journey and learning journey so far. So that's what a mentor relationship means to me. And that's what I also experienced afterwards in an equal way when I was mentored, for example, in the field of photography, or also when I started a new job, for example, and also as I experience it right now at Agile 42.
Yeah, and I think a learning journey is a good keyword to follow up on, because I personally would describe myself as a person who is committed to lifelong learning. So mentorship for me is all about learning new stuff, learning to discover my blind spots I may have. So yeah, to gain more certainty in a new environment, could be a new job or a new role. And I think it totally helps to speed up my personal development. So yeah, getting feedback regularly, and in contrast to the more private or school environment, it could be a very good relationship in a professional background as well. So I find this very interesting and valuable.
Also, if it comes to why we actually need, or why I actually needed a mentor, was almost all the time when I switched somehow context, the area of work or topics, for example. So always when I didn't know really what's going on and where it will go, I had somehow this kind of urge that I need to ask someone and have someone who's guiding me a little bit through that, who's also critical and helps me to rethink things sometimes. And this is in the case of self-reflection sometimes, so that you might step also sometimes a step back and see what you actually did wrong or assumed wrong, for example.
Yeah, as we both have the same mentor, Dennis, I think we could share this secret here. Could be maybe interesting for the for the audience to share our personal experience. How do we experience our mentoring sessions with our mentor? But yeah, how do we do these things? How do we approach our mentoring?
Yeah.
So maybe I could start sharing my experience. How is my mentoring session structured? Yeah, I have a mentoring session every week for 1 hour, and I take some time at the end of the week to reflect on my week. What was good? What was not that good? Where did I feel uncomfortable with? What do I need to learn for a meeting or whatever? And based on these reflections, I set some goals or topics for the next upcoming mentoring sessions. And yeah, then we start with some small talk. How was your week? To get familiar with each other and to yeah, create a safe environment to talk about more detailed topics. And yeah, then we maybe include some teaching as well, or some yeah, share some experience I don't have. So for me, mentoring is about transferring knowledge I don't have, or the mentor transfers knowledge I don't have to me. So this is very important. And based on that, the conversation just keeps going. So could end somewhere else. It depends always on the topics for me. How do you do this, Dennis?
For me, it was, I think also like for you, I don't know, but it was a journey. So it actually evolved over time a little bit from one into another direction. And for example, in the beginning, it was a completely new situation for me. At Agile 42, I had a new job and had new colleagues. I had a new context. I had new tasks and areas of work. And the mentorship the mentoring in the beginning was mainly giving me guidance of where to start, where can I go, where are my, for example, also get aware of where are my strengths and where I need still to develop a little bit more. And also as you did, and we did it actually together, right? And yeah, we reflected in the end of the week also a little bit. So we took like 15 to 20 minutes to go through our week experience, because we started at almost the same time. I think you started a month before me. And we tried to discuss a little bit and share a little bit our observations and our also obstacles in the last week, right? And figure out a little bit of what can we actually do better next week, and what can we not solve here right now, which we can then bring to our mentor and discuss with him.
Yeah, and we even had 1 or 2 sessions together with them, I think. So this could also be an option. Does not need to be a one-on-one from my perspective every time, but I think besides these joint sessions from time to time, we both have maybe different goals or different fields of interests and own personal development fields. So having a one-on-one is important, I think.
Can we back up a little bit before going deeper into this? We have already some questions coming in. And the first one would be like, how can you identify who is a good mentor, or who can be your mentor? How can you find that key person? Is it coming from you guys, or from your experience, has there been a mentor kind of grabbing you when you started?
For me, mentorship is a relationship, and in every relationship, trust for me plays maybe the most important role. So it needs to be a person I trust, and this depends on the fact that I know this person kind of. So in case there is an official mentoring program in place, there are maybe different persons I could choose from, or I could approach. And based on my personal experience, I always had a gut feeling. So and I trusted my gut feeling. Who could be a person I look up to? From whom could I learn the most? Who is able to give valuable feedback and to challenge me from time to time in a way that it's good for me. And so I think there's no right or wrong or and concrete advice I could provide, but it's more or less the gut feeling I had.
Yeah, it's quite interesting how to choose or how to know if it is the right mentor. When I go back, I think most of the times there are mentoring programs or there are offerings of mentorship. So for example, going back to school context, there are this mentoring programs. So you get a mentor assigned somehow. And there, I think this is quite often the case somehow. But and then you make it also really explicit that you have actually a mentor assigned to you, and you will have a mentorship now. But there are also certain other situations if I really reflect on mentoring, there might be a context in which you have already a trustful relationship, something like in family or with a really good friend or something like that. And for example, for me, could be, I talked with you about that before, my grandfather, because he showed me how to have a happy relationship for a lot of years. And he also challenged me a little bit when I was younger, what I can do, for example, but this was nothing explicitly we called mentorship. That was just, when I go back, I would consider that myself also a mentorship. Because he was, for sure, he was sharing his experiences, and he was sharing also his fails and failure stories. And he also gave feedback to me when I did did share something to him, and he said, like, okay, this is not how I did it normally. So why don't you do that maybe another way?
Yeah, and transferring this to a professional context, I think it's important to make it explicit that this is a mentoring relationship, so that the mentor knows that he is approached and he is asked to provide feedback. The mentee at the other side knows who to approach, what to bring on the table. And I think this is very important to have it kind of explicit, especially in the professional context.
Yeah. To have a safe room where you also can speak about everything. You don't understand things in the wrong way. You take also critical feedback, for example, and know that it's only for your best.
Yeah.
And you can be completely honest. Yeah.
Yeah, and not having this formal offer of having mentorship in place, maybe it's a good option to think about which person I trust, and maybe you have already some coffee chats in place, and then make it official by asking, could we create a mentorship? Yeah. Could we make it more formal and meet regularly, but more focused on my personal development, for example? Yeah. But I think it needs the commitment of both sides.
Yeah, but going back to the questions, to the question, especially when you start a new job and you don't know anyone, it might be really difficult to choose a mentor yourself, and it might need a lot of time to choose one, because you need to understand who has this kind of expertise you need, who has this kind of characteristics also. So with whom are you somehow harmonizing? And that could or might need half a year or even longer. So if you start and you want to have a mentor, it might be even better to provide someone and assign it to you, because they might know better for the first couple of weeks at least, or months, who can provide you the best relationship or service, or however you will call it.
Yeah, and it's possible to change that over time, because during your learning journey, you may discover other fields of interests or other things you need to or want to learn. And maybe there are other people who could provide more insights. Then it's maybe time to talk about how to make changes.
And when you then find the right mentor, there's a question also about the mentoring sessions. Like you mentioned now that you have a 1-hour session with the mentor, but how do you structure these? Is it done by the mentor, or is it co-created with the mentee and the mentor, or how does the sessions become a structure somehow?
I can speak for my mentor sessions. I would say it's a collaboration, but that also evolves over time. So in the beginning, I think my mentor at least structured a little bit more which way we could go, what could be things we would focus on in the beginning, in the next session, and so on. And then over time, I had a little bit more, I knew a little bit more already and could coordinate a little bit more myself, and I could also understand the environment a little bit better. And then questions and topics came up by myself more and more. And this is what we can also bring all the time into the mentoring session. So if there's anything popping up in a meeting or in a coaching session or a training session or whatever, and you have some question marks in your mind, you can always bring them into the mentoring session. And that's actually what I did the last times quite often.
Yeah, that also applies to me. Based on my personal reflection at the end of the week, I found some interesting topics, and in the beginning it was just more like, I know this, is this enough? Give me some context, provide some tips where I need to improve, maybe using feedback and talking about experience. And by moving on, topics emerge. And we use a taskboard, for example, to structure the conversation in the mentoring session, just to have a kind of a backlog. I could put in certain things when they emerge, and before the session starts, I just have a look and say, okay, this is important for now, and other things could wait for another week. So this is very helpful.
And very dynamic, right? So
I agree.
Yeah.
Is there then a good way to prepare for the sessions, except having all the questions and the thoughts going on? But can you, as a mentee, somehow prepare also for a session in some other way?
I think practice self-reflection is a very important part, because without doing this self-reflection, maybe you don't find important topics or topics you could, tremendously improve on. So you're then more stick to the feedback the mentor could provide. So for me, the most important preparation is the self-reflection part. To be honest with myself, and then being challenged from the mentor.
Yeah, and that also means that you need to invest some time for that, right? So sometimes if you have a really full week and then you have your mentoring session, you might not even know what to talk about because you didn't have time to reflect on what you actually did and to go through your observations and also make them visible for yourself and for your mentor. So that might be a challenge sometimes, to have that time slot where you can actually do that.
Yeah, and whenever I have the gut feeling that I don't feel comfortable with a situation or a preparation for a meeting or call, I put this down, and I think it's also possible to address my mentor, not only during the mentoring sessions we have, the explicit ones. I could address him regularly. So whenever there's the need to talk to him, he's open, and he reserves some time for this.
And do you see any kind of difference between mentoring and coaching? Because there's a lot in the chat and many questions about this, like what's the difference?
Yeah, I think it could easily be confused, because a good mentor also, from my perspective, needs to be a good listener and a good coach as well, and vice versa. Personally, I think coaching is more non-directive. So it's more about your things you already know, and it's more about a conversation about discover and learn things based on your own things you already know. And mentoring, in contrast to that, could include advice. I would ask, how do I approach this topic? And I would expect a clear answer, because I maybe do not have the context or the experience. And so I think it could not be distinguished that clearly. And I think in the mentoring session, we switch between the stances quite often.
Yeah. And the mentor might need to have the skills and the expertise, and the coach might not, in a certain field where you want to develop.
Here is also one person saying that in his experience, in order to get a sustainable result through mentoring, you also kind of end up dealing with mindsets and sometimes maybe talking also deep stuff and going into psychology and so on. So do you have any personal lines between mentoring and therapy? Because it's not therapy, but it might maybe anyway feel like, when you speak about personal stuff also, that it's opening up stuff and taking you in the directions where you actually want to go.
Yeah, I could remember a situation where I shared my honest feelings about a situation, a challenge I faced. And I had the need to talk about it. Was it just my perception? How does my mentor see this situation? Just to get another perspective on the same issue. And I found it very interesting and valuable for me to hear that kind of feedback. And I think it's totally up to you how you feel comfortable with sharing your own inner thoughts and feelings. For me, it was okay, but maybe you, Dennis, have another experience with that.
Yeah, just thinking about that, if if you have an issue and you go deeper and deeper and deeper and try to find out the root cause, it might be a question from my side, always on a psychological level somehow. So that you're not feeling self-confident, you have some bad experience before, which now prevent you from performing or from doing whatever you would actually want to do and going the way you want to go. So it might depend on how deep you go in the mentoring. So how much time and how much effort you invest into really digging deeper into what happened and what's the cause for that problem right now and why you're behaving like that, for example. For example, if you can't receive feedback, what's the issue with that? And it might be the experience you had before. So you kind of have this protection you want to build up against feedback, for example. So you just want to protect yourself somehow because you experienced really bad things before in regards to feedback. So maybe you were receiving feedback in public from someone, a really bad one, and people made fun of you or whatever. So
yeah, and I think maybe there's a point in time where the mentor says, okay, this is too deep. I see that I personally cannot help you with this topic. Please, yeah, let's find another person who could help you with that. And I would see this as a responsibility of the mentor to see where is the border I can't cross or don't want to cross. So yeah.
Can you see it yourself? Or is it for you clear what you want to tell and what you don't?
Yeah, I always trust my gut feeling. I don't prepare this in detail. I just talk, and whatever comes up, it's okay. And sometimes it could be spontaneously that I decide, or just do it at least. Share my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions as well. So this emerges, and based on a trustful relationship, I think this is kind of natural.
I just wanted to say emotions, right? It's really difficult to show sometimes emotions also in the moment in this remote setup a little bit. And I also wasn't used to show feelings and how if you felt bad, you normally would hide it. Or I actually did it all the time when I was younger. And you all learned over time that it's really important to show them in order to also let the other one know how to handle you or how to talk to you and what you can do today together. For example, there's not always the perfect timing to challenge you because you're already stressed and you also have, I don't know, you're frustrated or whatever. And then on the other side, there's a perfect day and you might be in the right mood to receive feedback on a certain point.
I'm happy you also, Dennis, already touched a little bit the topic of the next question with remote mentoring, because some people here now are asking also how you see the remote mentoring vs then in-person mentoring. Is there a difference, and how is it different? And if you can a little bit open up that topic.
Yeah, the funny side, part of this question is, or the answer is that we both started with remote mentoring in this context. So I could also prepare this, compare this to my former experience with some other kind of mentorship, which was in person. And for me, the main difference was that building trust and building a relationship went much faster than doing it remotely. So for me, the most important fact is that I definitely want to try out different formats in remote settings. For example, I think using video is important to get to know each other, to see facial expressions and gestures. But from time to time, I could imagine to use just the phone and go for a walk virtually. So have another kind of conversation maybe. And I think it also depends on the topic we're talking about. So yeah. Dennis,
so working remotely also means that you most of the time focus on work. So you don't have this talks in between. You don't see people interacting with other people even. So if I have a meeting with my mentor, I see him face to face, but I don't see him in a natural environment, let's say, and he does not see me as well. So it's really important to also have the opportunity to, I don't know, have a chit chat and see you not only face to face, but also with other people and in another context, maybe.
And
That's
share
really
some personal details, maybe,
yeah.
To have a small talk at the beginning. That also could help.
Yeah.
And by talking about personal experience, I think this also could help to improve establish the relationship at the beginning, because this always relates to some former experience and private stuff, maybe. So this could be a good option to use. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing about remote work and building up trust. If you have a 2D version all the time and setting, it's kind of more challenging than if you are on site and really can interact with another person, see their facial expressions better, and everything combined, I think, to sense the whole situation a little bit better. I think it's challenging to do it remotely, I must say.
But this also could be a good topic for a mentoring session, to openly talk about how do we want to handle this, and how do you feel about this, and how do we want to form our mentoring sessions and create a good and safe environment for both of us.
Yeah.
Could you maybe also provide some of our listeners with some tips and tricks if you're like a more introvert, shy person? How can you cope with mentoring and take this step to actually ask for a mentor if you're not given a mentor and so on? Like, if you really don't know how can you do it? And especially if you're shy, how can you do it in the best way?
I would describe me as an introvert, so maybe it's a good point to start answering. I could imagine that having coffee chats or some informal meetings in a good environment that suits your needs could be a good start. And then when you have reached a point in time where you feel comfortable with this person, and you maybe have started talking about some more deeper stuff already, you could make it formal and just ask. I think it's always related to the gut feeling. Trust your gut feeling, and maybe you will discover a point in time where you feel comfortable enough to ask.
Yeah. And maybe a step before, also think about what are the pros and cons if you don't do it. So
yeah,
what might happen if you don't do it? Where will you be in 10 years? You're asking yourself if you should have chosen a mentor 10 years ago, because you're still struggling with the same problem. And then you might think, okay, now it's too late to do that. But that's also not true, right? So you can also do it whenever you want, whenever you realize, okay, now there's a point and it really needs someone. And even though you're introvert, I think there's always a really smooth way to do that.
Nice. Would you recommend anyway all the listeners today to have just one mentor, or could you have also in your like professional career different mentors for different things that you want to learn in the new organization, for example?
I haven't experienced this so far, but I could imagine having this. But for me, most important is to stay focused in my development path. So for me personally, I could imagine, but I would not foster this to have too many development options at the same time.
And you also do it besides all your daily work, right? So it's also a time question. So when do you do that? And how much time do you need to invest to build up the trust and this right kind of relationship? And is it possible to remain in two mentoring relationships with the same focus, with the same progress? And it might be challenging, right? And also, I'm wondering how it is for the mentor, if he knows that, or she knows that there's also another one also mentoring my mentee. I don't know how that, because it could be colliding interests. Can you say it like that? I don't know, but it might be.
Yeah, I think the
Different
mentor,
inputs.
the mentor is very committed to see you grow, and I think this could cause some trouble as well.
Yeah. Just imagining myself being a mentor for someone in a couple of years, and then my mentee will come to me and say like, no, but mentor B said that and that.
Yeah, but at the other side, I just saw a comment saying having several points of view can be really helpful. Yeah. I would agree. Yeah, maybe you get then two perspectives on the same topic. Yeah.
That's what we also said and talked about when we said why to choose a mentor as well, right? So to have different perspectives. Question is how many you need and how strong they are, how strong their opinion on things are. So
to sum up, I think it depends on the context and on the persons involved as well.
Yeah, a difficult question.
What about then having a mentor when you start the new work or starting a new organization? Does the mentor also kind of help you to network inside the organization and get to know people? Or is the mentorship just about one-on-ones or in a group with the onboarding and so on?
Mm-hmm. Probably I would say this depends completely on you a little bit. If this is something you set as a goal as well, so you want to be more open and also really get to know your colleagues quickly, and especially if you have this problem with a remote setup, for sure the mentor could somehow provide you with some tips, some guidance how to do that. But I don't know if this is a topic from my perspective which I would bring to my mentor.
Yeah, I basically agree.
Do you think you need some kind of prerequisites then to have a mentor? There's a question about this as well. Like, do you need, when you focus on the relationship, do you need to, I don't know, take a training before you have a mentor or something? Or can you just start from scratch and reach out to people and be like, I would need help on this, who can help me, kind of?
I did it exactly this way. Whenever I feel or felt that there is something I need to learn or know, or I need some more context, or just a go-to person to ask for advice, I would exactly handle this way.
Yeah, me too. I like to try things out and so fail early and often, and it's kind of like the same here. So I would probably consider myself someone who would jump into the cold water quickly before. I don't know how to prepare for that also. I mean, it might make sense to understand why you need a mentor in advance and how to get the most out of it. And yeah, coming back to this kind of, for example, that feedback is something good for you, that it is a gift that you can then use to become better and develop. But yeah, that's what I would say in regards to that.
Yeah, I think it comes back to the point where you need to be honest with yourself that you need help. And this could sometimes be a bit tricky, but at least for me, it was tricky because I sometimes wanted to solve things on my own. And then I realized, oh, it takes too much time. I'm confused and I need help. And yeah, asking for help or for advice could be a difficult topic sometimes, depending on the topic maybe, but yeah, also it needs to be a good relationship already, so depends on the topic, I would say.
But as I think about it right now, there are certain skills which might be interesting and where I also see myself lacking, or I lack this kind of experience in some way. So to self-reflect, if you didn't do that quite often before, that might be something which you could also already get aware of, that you need to improve that with your mentor, or you can somehow try to improve it before you start the mentoring relationship, because this is something which probably brings you more value during the relationship then. Yeah, so for example, Nina, you have lots of experience with the self-reflection, and I must say I did not have that much before. It was a little bit more tricky for me to also realize that this is a thing, and then do it and self-reflect on my things and my weeks, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think it depends on your own needs. For me, a mentoring session is good when it's more structured, and I have a kind of an agenda ready. I prepare for this based on my reflections. But other mentees maybe prefer a more informal talk to a topic based or related to a topic. So I think it always depends on the people involved. So to define a structure together, and this is totally up to you as a mentee and a mentor as well, I think.
Do you, in your experience, think that the mentor has to have more knowledge in the topic that he's or she is mentoring you as a mentee in, or can you be kind of equals and just share knowledge, or do you expect that the mentor has more experience in the field?
Interesting question.
Yeah.
I would immediately say my mentor needs to have more experience than me. That's my gut feeling. I need to, because it's also about trusting that person, that whatever way we go together, that it is kind of leading me in the right direction. And I'm not sure about that if my mentor has the same amount of experience as I have in the field I actually want to develop. I don't know how that could help me then, I must admit, because then it's a little bit like, it's another relationship. It's more like we are going this journey together, but on the same level.
Yeah, maybe another perspective on the same question. I thought about it, and I think it depends on your personal goal. If your goal is not primarily to gain knowledge or to learn in this certain area of interest, I think it could be possible, but basically I would agree with what Dennis said. Maybe the keyword goal is a good thing to follow up on. Dennis, do you have goals for your mentoring sessions or the next upcoming weeks or month? We haven't talked about this yet.
Yeah. So yeah, we are setting goals, which we also said that you are working with kind of a backlog, so we are doing that as well. There are certain things where we see room to develop, or certain things which also pop up over a period of time because it's getting more important. And to getting to this point is already kind of goal which we set up before. So I would say we kind of planned throughout, we have a horizon for I think 3 months, something like that, and then maybe a little bit more unclear horizon for the next 3 months. But yeah, I think it's quite important to have kind of a goal, or at least to understand your need. It doesn't have to be a goal in 2 years, I think, but there has to be a need which you understand yourself already, to understand how you can benefit from your relationship with a mentor, because otherwise you will just go into any direction somehow, and that will not be beneficial for you, or might be, but you will not end up where you actually wanted to go.
Yeah, exactly. And I use the first mentoring sessions to talk about the direction I'd want to follow, so that both sides know what to talk about and what should be focused in the upcoming conversations, and other topics that maybe could be covered but are not that important.
And that might also change after a while, right? So if you gain more experiences and you do other things, and you see, okay, I might be better in that, and I might be more interested in this kind of topic, and I would like to go into another direction, I might then recheck if I have a mentor who can, or if my mentor can still provide that kind of expertise and help and support, or if I need another one.
Yeah, and also coming back to the learning journey, at the beginning, in my case, it was more related to kind of teaching and sharing experiences, or hearing experiences from my mentor. And over time, we sometimes step more and more into some coaching conversations, kind of. And it's less teaching just more talking about experiences and how could I approach some challenges, talking more about personal development as well. So I think it depends on the journey and your goals and how they change over time. And with learning more and more, you maybe discover new fields of interest. So could be mixed.
I think it's also very difficult to define how long the mentoring journey is, but can you kind of give your experiences on how long you have been mentored by mentors so far?
I haven't had these explicit mentorship relationships yet, so it's the first time for me. And I could imagine having this as long as I could, because yeah, I would describe me as a person who's committed to lifelong learning, and there's always something new I could learn based on this approach. And I think there could also be another topic in the future. I'm not aware of it now, and maybe the cadence changes a bit. So now we're talking 1 hour every week. Maybe in the future it's just 1 hour per month, but still is valuable for me. So I'm not sure.
And it also depends really on you and how curious you are. For example, if you normally would consider yourself a really curious person who always wants to dig into different contexts and fields, after a while, let's say after 3 years, your mentoring relationship will be kind of fading out probably after a while, and then you will have a new one arising afterwards, and but on another topic and another field, in another direction, on another goal maybe. So, but I would say I don't know how long it could be. I wouldn't put a deadline on it.
Yeah, whenever the goal is reached, or you have another goal discovered during the conversations or during your learning journey, it's always a good thing to explicitly talk about it and ask how could we or should we continue. I have the feeling that, what's your opinion? And I think a trustful relationship could cover this as well, to talk about, is it the time to end this relationship and move on to another thing, or depending on the topics, there maybe could be more coaching involved with another focus. So I think it depends on your personal reflection, your learning journey, and the goals you have.
Yeah, it might be if you have a mentor for a long time, you probably have a mentor who accompanied you through the whole journey, through the last years, and saw how you actually developed over the time. So that's actually pretty valuable, because that kind of person can then tell you where you were years ago or months ago, whatever, and where you are right now, and compare that a little bit and make it also visible to you how your development was, and yeah, make you realize maybe in this kind of in this certain field also, where are your strengths now, and what to focus on next, because he knows your journey so good.
Yeah,
and I can only imagine how satisfying it is for the mentor to also see how much you as mentees grow, because that must be very rewarding for that kind of a mentor as well.
Yeah, and I also think that the mentor could profit from or benefit from the relationship as well, to get to know different kind of personalities. How do other people approach things? Maybe there are many mentees with the same kind of interests. So I think it could be valuable for the mentor as well to see what's going on.
As we just talked about it, that it would be really interesting for me to see a mentor answering all this kind of question.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
But I also, before we maybe still have a few minutes left to look at the last questions, I also just want to let everyone in this webinar know that at Agile 42, we also provide you with mentoring services. You can have the same same experience that Nina and Dennis has had also with the help of our good coaches. So if you are interested, I'm going to put in the chat also how you can contact us, and we would be really, really happy to book a call or anything with you guys just to clarify what you are kind of looking for, and maybe also then pair you with a mentor if you don't have someone already in mind. So that's also something that I guess also Nina and Dennis recommend very warmly.
Exactly.
We've had a lot of questions, guys, today. It's really, really nice. I'm trying to see if here is something still that you guys haven't kind of answered. Maybe we can take a question like, do you sometimes feel like, or could you as a mentee feel that the mentorship is kind of done now, that you could kind of end the relationship with a mentor, being like, thank you, I got what I wanted, now I'm satisfied and now I can move on my own?
Yeah, that refers a little bit back to the question about the duration of a mentor relationship. Might be like that. If you reached your goal and you don't have any new goals set, might be time to say goodbye.
Yeah, I haven't experienced this yet, so I would again trust my gut feeling. When I have the feeling that this time is not valuable anymore, I would openly address this and talk about this with my mentor and see what maybe his or her opinion on that, and maybe we agree or we find another way to change the conversation or the topic. Could also be an option.
But as we said, there's always something you can improve. There are always new goals somehow. And there's always a reason why a mentor could help you in some way. Wouldn't say that this situation will come really quickly.
Do you have any last minute tips or tricks for people now looking for mentoring? Like also not being afraid of reaching out, of course, to people also remotely, if you are still working remotely, but do you have anything else that you would like to recommend or to people looking for mentors?
I would recommend starting with a proper self-reflection, or at least address someone who could help with that, because I think this is, at least for me, the start, the basis for having a good mentoring relationship, to know what, or to commit that you need some help to, and you commit to learning.
Yeah, and to understand where you actually want to go, and understand where you are missing knowledge, for example. That is sometimes really tricky to really understand that, especially in a fast changing and moving world where you're always kind of reacting instead of acting.
Great. I did also, for every participant here now in the live session, share our community link with you. So we also warmly recommend that you join our free community, where you can continue the discussions also around mentorship and get to know people, network with people that have the same interests as you. And I think networking is also quite important also for mentees. So I guess you two, Dennis and Nina here, when you have the same mentor, also probably talk a lot together to compare not compare your sessions, because that would be strange, but compare like the feeling about the mentorship, right?
Yeah, we talked a lot about what helped and how to structure. Even though it's a personal thing, it was interesting to see how Dennis structures his conversations and how he develops and what his goals are. So I found it valuable, and it inspired me somehow to address some topics maybe as well.
Nothing to add from my side.
Great. I think we can start also to round up today's session. It's been really interesting to listen to your perspective as mentees now on your mentorship ride or journey so long. Thank you also to everyone here who has been asking great questions to Dennis and Nina throughout the webinar. And if you want to reach out to us, you can do it via email or join us on LinkedIn or wherever you like to to chat to us, and we will answer as much as possible on the questions that were unanswered today. And we look forward to having you in the next webinars. And if you have any questions about mentoring, please just get in touch and we will support you from there. Thanks also Nina and Dennis for your time today. It was really, really nice having your experience shared here with us today. Yeah, I just want to wish everyone a very nice morning, day, afternoon, evening. Helsinki is getting dark, so be careful out there wherever you are and stay safe.
Yeah, thank you for facilitating this, for hosting this session, and I thank you to all of the participants to asking good questions.
Yeah, thanks from my side as well. Thanks, Sophia. Thanks, Ninja, for doing that with me. And thanks for all the nice questions. It was really interesting questions as well, which we were not really thinking about before, so I would say.
I agree.
Great. See you next time, guys.
See you.